Hey guys, welcome back to Marvel Unmasked. This is your place for everything Marvel Comics. Well, we're up to episode 5 and we're glad you're here. Don't forget, this is basically for YouTube, but we do an audio version of the podcast. So if you're listening to it, make sure you check us out over on YouTube. It's much cleaner, looks better, and there's a couple of visual references there that kind of help. But we're super glad you're here. Also, I don't have any sponsors, and this is that spot where we're supposed to put sponsors. If you'd like to be a sponsor, hey, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I accept direct messages, but if you want to help the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, hit a subscribe, whatever service you're on. All of them help. In any case, I'm just glad you're here. So we're going to go a little more casual with the show moving forward, make it not so formal, talk a little more openly, and just try to have a little more fun. So let's just dive in, have a little TV time. There have been a bunch of Marvel news in the last week. Wandavision, Moon Knight, some stuff from Hulu, and an actual release date on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So let's just run through it really fast and see what's going on. Probably one of the more curious things this week is when Bentley was talking about WandaVision. Now, Paul Bentley plays Vision, in case you didn't know, and I kind of like him as the guy, but he spoke directly about the show, and he called it effing bonkers. Now, I don't know about you, but that makes me pretty excited. He also said that it's way out there and nuts. Also gets me more than a little interested. We also got some leaked shots of Agents of S.W.O.R.D. Well, a couple cars. And they were fairly impressive and made me think about those jokes about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we talked about how a top secret organization that had logos on their car made me laugh. But in any case, it looked pretty much like what you would expect. I guess as I sort of think about it, I have to wonder who would really care at this point. In the post-snap world of the MCU, everybody knows about superheroes, aliens, cosmic beings, and everything in between, so why hide it? Also, sadly, we found out that Tiger and Howard the Duck over on Hulu got canned. Now, this is upsetting because I don't know about you, but I wanted to see what Kevin Smith was going to bring to it. I actually just watched Jay and Silent Bob reboot last night, had a good time at it, and wish we were going to see what he was going to bring. I mean, you don't have to like everything Kevin Smith does, but you do know that he does love comics, and a guy that loves comics, to me, tends to make a better comic book product. I mean, come on, this is Kevin Smith. He's been making comics for forever. He's a creator, he's made comic book shows, he's made comic book-esque movies. Heck, he's one of the comic book men. He really is one of us, so I'm more than a little bummed that his show didn't go off. Either way, it sort of looks like Hulu is almost dead with just Hellstrom being the last show standing. We haven't seen anything from that yet, and I'm hoping that the fact that it is the last show standing kind of points to a high-quality production. Who knows? We haven't seen anything, and I don't even really understand why Kevin Feige has allowed that one show to continue while canceling all the rest. Maybe Damien Hellstrom was a character he had no plans for, so he didn't really care. Now, anytime a release date gets moved up, it makes me happy, and this week, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier's release date got a little moved up. We were mostly assuming it was going to show up in the fall, but now it looks like it's got a confirmed August 2020 release. More importantly, this means that WandaVision is coming shortly after, and so maybe we'll see it around October or November. Either way, the show is introducing a ton of new characters, and very well might be introducing the Thunderbolts. That should make everybody happy. Now, I guess as a side note, over the last week, there's been more and more rumors about the Thunderbolts. We've been hearing for a while that there may be a movie, and we ran a couple videos on this channel about it. But now what we're hearing is it's not going to be a movie. It's going to be a show on Disney+. I'm not really too sure how I feel about that. I want it leaning as hard PG-13 as possible because it's the Thunderbolts. And I suspect that if we're getting a Disney Plus show, that means no Red Hulk. Seems like a lot of CGI. At least with the She-Hulk, they might be able to pull an old Lou Ferrigno and use a human actor, but you're not going to get away with that with the Red Hulk. It's just not going to work. There's also the violence aspect of the Thunderbolts. These guys are bad guys. You need to have that flexibility of them being actual bad guys, and I don't know if that can happen on Disney Plus, especially in a even more restricted than PG-13 format. To me, the biggest story of the week wasn't the one that everybody was paying attention to when it comes to TV, and that was Moon Knight and another baddie being added, Ripper. Now, when Jeremy Conrad posted this the other day, I really didn't think a lot of it, but if you start doing a little bit of research on Ripper, you find out he is a Hellbent. Now, most people don't even know who the Hellbent are. They were part of a very short story arc for Moon Knight more than 10 years ago, and Moon Knight is actually one of the members of the Hellbent. Now, if you don't know who they are and you dig around on the net, you'll find out that they're basically the result of an intermingling of the ancient races, gods, with early man, and some of their descendants still live on Earth today. Now, these guys are tied directly with the god Thoth, which is part of the Egyptian mythos, just like Khonshu. Now, most of these guys kind of look like demons, but what I find most interesting about this is the use of the Egyptian mythos creating some underlying framework for the rest of the MCU maybe to build upon, or at least that horror aspect of it. We really haven't had a lot of horror in MCU yet. I mean, think about it for just a minute. This would create a whole group or supernatural subrace that has demon-like or godlike powers, lives on the Earth, and can be used as a central villain or a central villainous organization for future plots. this sounds like it'll really be at the core of the story. Also, I think their sort of demonic status will kind of play as the dark side to Moon Knight. He's a Hellbent, and it might be that temptation in his heart that you eventually can fall victim to. Maybe it turns you into those monsters or demons somehow or another. In any case, it's going to be perfect for the Moon Knight series, and a perfect way to set up more supernatural action in the Marvel Universe. Now we're also hearing we might get Werewolf by Night and Blade in the show. So all these things fit together really nice. I'm pretty curious of what you guys think about the Hellbent being in Moon Knight. I think it's pretty cool. So there's been a lot of silver screen news this week, so let's jump over to our front row seats. In minor news, we found out Captain Marvel is actually going officially into production and has got a new writer. We did a little video on it earlier this week. Now, we don't know a bunch about this yet, but we do know that Megan McDonald is writing it. She's a staff writer for Marvel, and she went from being a staff writer to working on Wandavision to now writing the script for this movie. So with some of these things being pushed up in release and her being moved so fastly into this role, I think that's a pretty good sign that she's a hell of a good writer. One of the other few details we know is that Anna Boden and Ryan Flett, who co-wrote and directed the first film, are not coming back for the sequel. But apparently there's no bad blood between them and Marvel, because Marvel already has secured them to do some stuff on Disney+. Although they haven't revealed what that is yet. With Monica Rambeau coming to WandaVision, and some rumors of a Secret Invasion show coming to Disney+, if I was a betting man, I would think that's where they were going. In any case, it looks like Marvel's shooting for a 2022 release date, so we'll have to see what happens. I know a lot of people are not big Captain Marvel fans. I like the movie. My daughters like the movie. So, whatever. We also got some really cool stuff from the Eternals this week that I really liked. We got a new poster for the Chinese New Year. The artwork is killer. And it actually gives us a little peek at some of the Eternals. Now you would think that was all we got, but we actually got some costume leaks, which looked really, really good. And really MCU-ified versions of their costumes, leaning towards the Neil Gaiman versions in the comics. And we got some fairly clear pictures of Richard Madsen from the movie, who, although he does look a little bit different than Icarus in the comics, Madsen rocks. I loved him in Game of Thrones, so I don't know how anybody cannot be excited for that. There was a little rumor this weekend about Namor appearing in the Eternals, and that very well might be possible, but I'm not so sure that that's true. You break it down, it's based on a tweet about a Syrian teenage actor whose Instagram is Zine_Alarif, who says that he has a small role in the Eternals. Now in this he says his father is actually killed by sea monsters. Now, deviants are sea monsters. There's no reason to read a lot more into this. But people have pretty much taken this and started to run with the idea that this is a kid version of Namor. It very well could be. Marvel's made it pretty clear that they want to set various things in different parts of the world and be more international. And there's no representation there, so Namor might be an interesting character to give Middle Eastern descent. Also, Atlantis spawns from Greek myth, so a person of Mediterranean descent may make sense. I don't think this is the case. Although, maybe I have to backtrack a little bit. Making Namor an Eternal might kind of work. It gives him a long history, it gives him a source for his powers, it might even explain why he hasn't been around and shows up right around the time the Eternals do. This is all contingent on the fact that Marvel actually got Namor back, can use him, and worked all these details out with Universal. My understanding is they could probably put Namor in an Eternals movie, but he still can't be used in his own solo movies like the Hulk. In any case, this feels like that scene with Ben Stein in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I heard it from my uncle's friend's cousin's uncle's brother's sister's friend who saw it at the ice cream parlor. This isn't anything close to any kind of real verification, so. In other Marvel news, we're getting a couple new ladies too. We're getting another Valkyrie. Now, Tessa Thompson played Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok, and most people liked her. But according to Jeremy Conrad over at MCU Cosmic, and Jeremy does a pretty good job, I like his stuff, Marvel Studios is planning on introducing a character named Mist. Now, if you don't know who Mist is, that's perfectly okay. Most people don't know who Mist is. But she was actually created by Chris Claremont way back in the mid-1980s. And she was a friend to Danielle Moonstar in the pages of New Mutants. So it's unclear of how she'll show up in the movie. You can't let this walk by and not think about the fact that Marvel did go ahead and release New Mutants. There was that kerfuffle about New Mutants being in the MCU. And then all of a sudden we're talking about adding Mist, a New Mutants character, tied directly to Danielle Moonstar, who's in the movie. Things that make you say, The other new lady coming to the MCU last week was Clea. And this shouldn't surprise anybody, she's a huge part of the Doctor Strange mythos. And this came from the Illuminati, who've been dropping all kinds of scoops lately, and I haven't really had a chance to validate anything that they've said, or even follow up, so there's no reason to believe or disbelieve. Just take it all with a grain of salt. I don't break scoops, but I don't criticize scoopers either. I have no idea what goes on their side of the fence. But they do claim to have a casting call, and that casting call apparently is asking for somebody between 27 and 42, any ethnicity with leading lady qualities. And they claim that the casting call actually confirms that this is Stephen Strange's on and off again love interest. That's Clea. Now, she's one of Doctor Strange's best friends, he's in an extended relationship with her and all that kind of stuff, but she doesn't necessarily have to be a good guy in this movie. She is the niece of Dormammu, and I highly suspect that she might be the character that maybe is turned back to the light via the love that she has for Stephen Strange. We don't have any other details about the movie, and there appears to be so much being thrown into it the last couple weeks, I don't really know what to think. No matter what, I'll be going to see it, but I want all these new characters to work. I mean, who are we talking about here? America Chavez, Brother Voodoo, Clea. There's even been rumors of all kinds of other characters from Doctor Doom to Deadpool rumored to exist in it. They are going to be jumping through multiverses, so there could be a ton of cameos. But I think this casting and main character castings like Dr. Voodoo are not going to be cameos or bit part. They're going to be ones that stick. That brings us to Sony and Venom 2. Did you catch our video about plot leak? Man, I don't know really what to think. There wasn't a lot given there. More or less, we find out that Cletus Cassidy is going to be executed in the next movie. And that's when he escapes. He doesn't escape alone, he actually escapes with Shriek. Now in the comics, Shriek eventually becomes Scream, which is a symbiote, and it's unclear if Cassidy has the symbiote even at this point when he escapes. So I do think they'll both actually get turned into their alter ego in the movie, probably around the same time. Now the point of contention between him and Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock is still a little unclear, but according to this plot leak, Cletus Cassidy was in an orphanage, and Eddie Brock does a story about the orphanage that exposes Cassidy's involvement in burning it down and killing 12 people. This will make an enemy out of most guys. So I suspect that's what most of the movie is built around. Maybe we'll get a trailer really soon, and it's still pretty unclear whether Tom Holland is going to appear in this movie or not. I think he's going to make a cameo, but we'll have to wait and see. And that brings us to the rumor mill. And this week's rumor mill is full of webs. We've had a lot of scoops drop in the last week about Spider-Man, and we're putting stuff in rumor mill that goes back to one source. It can't be verified yet, but some of these sound pretty interesting, and most of these stories come from Mikey Sutton. Now, in the last week, he's dropped several Spider-Man scoops, and in the past, he's actually had some pretty big Spider-Man scoops come true, the main one being that Spider-Man was going to the MCU. Now, in these scoops, he points to a couple of things. First, Spider-Man will be part of the Fantastic Four. Now, this makes a lot of sense with Spider-Man's history with the character and his friendship with Johnny Storm. Although I don't know if Marvel will actually use their team-up movie to add him to the Fantastic Four, or they'll save it for something bigger later, like Secret Wars. I really don't know. With Sony losing James Bond, Zombieland really didn't do very great, Jumanji didn't hit what they were hoping, pretty much leaves them with Spider-Man. Sony Pictures has been circling the drain for a while, so we could be seeing the end. And maybe Kevin Feige's counting on that. But in any case, I don't think that they're going to use Spider-Man in a team-up film unless they've got some other extended contract that we don't know about, which is possible. The other one has to do with something we speculated on here. We saw that Morbius trailer, and we saw the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man on the poster. If you go back and listen to that episode of the podcast, we talked about how I actually think this is building to a SpiderVerse, and that's the exact scoop that he appears to have. Now he's claiming over on the Facebook group that they are actively building towards a live-action version of the SpiderVerse, and this would also include Spider-Gwen, as well as Miles Morales. Now, obviously, these are rumors, and you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Can't validate anything. And as I said earlier, I try not to slam on scoopers, and that includes Mikey. I appreciate anybody that tries to bring us some news, but inversely, count on me calling you out if they're wrong. Now this week's Soapbox, we're going to talk a little bit about Marvel in animation. Now to me, it's been quite a few years since we've had a decent outing of Marvel animated content. Before the Disney takeover of Marvel, we had some great shows. We had the Spectacular Spider-Man, we had The Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is one of the best incarnations of the Marvel Universe ever. We also had Wolverine and the X-Men, all three of which died miserable early deaths when the takeover happened. These were replaced by Disney with other series. Avengers Assembled, Ultimate Spider-Man, which had a couple cool moments, but was moderately received, and even Guardians of the Galaxy. But none of these cartoons have ever landed properly. All animation at Marvel was supervised by Marvel TV, which was run by Jeff Loeb. And as you know, Jeff Loeb has recently hit the door. Now, technically, he's still employed there. He's helping with the transition, because he's a classy guy. But what I'm hoping for is the dawn of a new day in Marvel animation. We've only got a couple tidbits of the What If show, so I'm not so sure we're getting it yet. I'm not that impressed with that style of animation as of right now. But Marvel really needs to look across the aisle at what DC has done with their animated features over the last couple of years. Did you watch The Death of Superman and The Reign of Superman? That was great. The guys at DC Animation have pretty much mastered this process. They're churning out content at a good rate. It's mostly high quality. There's a couple misses here and there, but overall, it's highly entertaining. As a fairly big man-child, I have to say, I really miss having great cartoons from Marvel, and it's been so long since we've had them. I really haven't walked away from a Marvel animated movie and gone, oh my god, that was great, since probably Hulkverse. I mean, Hulkverse Wolverine and Hulkverse Thor are still two of my favorite animated movies. If Kevin Feige can actually master this realm of Marvel media also, he'll open up a whole new door to some interesting box office success. Animation is fairly cheap to create, Marvel Studios has a ton of street cred, and it could push obscure, weird, or almost completely unknown characters, or heck, even new characters, onto the big screen or small screen in an animated format and just try so many new great things. But put the money into it. Animation requires money. Don't go cheap. Get good voice talent and finish it properly. I mean, hey, is Greg Weisman doing anything? Is he done with Young Justice yet? I mean, let us know. What do you guys think? Do you want some quality Marvel animation? And who would you like to see be Kevin Feige's team lead in creating a Marvel animated universe? I'm still going with Greg Weisman. Sound off in the comments. That brings us to the end of this week's podcast. We didn't really have any good video game or comic news for you, so hopefully we'll have a little bit for you next week, and hopefully you had a good time. Again, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment. It helps so much, whether you're on Libsyn, Spotify, or more importantly, YouTube. And I can't wait to see you next time. Excelsior!